Council under the Licensing Act 2003. As a point of procedure, a chair needs to be selected to chair this hearing. From the members present, please can I have a proposal to nominate a chair, which will need to be seconded. Councillor Sesford.
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor Ian Hutchinson for chair.
Is that seconded?
Seconded, Melanie.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson is the chair for this hearing.
Thank you. Just couldn't find my mute button there. Sorry. I'll run through things first of all. Well, first of all, disclosure of members' interests. Have we any interests at all among us members regarding this application? No?
Not from me.
Okay. Welcome to this virtual hearing, which is being held in respect of an application for variation of premises licence to the St Mary's Inn, St Mary's Lane. The hearing is being live streamed, so it's being recorded on the Council's YouTube channel. All participants of the committee should have their videos on at all times. However, participants' microphones must remain on mute unless invited to speak, at which time their microphones must be unmuted, then muted again when they finish speaking. If a participant wishes to speak, they must raise their hand on the screen to alert me that they wish to do so. If there is any IT issues during this course of whereby connections or any IT issues during the course of the hearing, whereby connection of the participants is lost, the hearing will be paused while efforts are made for the participant to reconnect to the hearing, either by video or telephone. The hearing takes the form of discussion led by the authority, and no cross-examination of any party is permitted unless the authority consider that is required. First of all, we'll go around introducing each other. We've done the members' interest. Then the hearing procedure is confirmation of speaking. The licensing officer will speak first to present the hearing. Then the applicant, then any responsible authority of the police, which there aren't at this time, then interested parties. Remember to raise your hand when you're speaking. The legal advisor, just to clarify that all parties that within the presentation of, sorry, you needn't have that. Statement, no, we'll miss that bit out. Then we've got the officer's report. Then we have from the chair questions to the officers, and or the legal officer has questions to, or other parties, that being Paul or Sarah, which I can't see Sarah on. Oh, she's there. Sorry. We then the questions concerning the representation. Sorry, the applicant presents the representation for the licence. Then questions from the subcommittee, officers or responsible interested parties, etc. Then questions concerning the presentation from the subcommittee, officers, responsible bodies, etc. Finally, we have summing up. The interested parties can sum up, followed by the applicant. And from there, we then go into closed session, only the councillors and legal officer, and we will come to a decision. I'm sorry that's very garbled. I hope that was clear enough for everybody. Does everyone understand that? There's no one doesn't anyway. Right. Well, we'll go around introducing. I'm Ian Hutchinson, County Councillor for Haltwhistle, representing the Haltwhistle ward. Trevor?
Yeah, County Councillor Trevor, that's what I represent, Hexham Central with the Ickham.
Bill? Bill's frozen. Sorry, Bill, you were frozen there.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm County Councillor Bill Crosby. I represent Bedlington East.
Just going around my screen, we've got Sarah.
Sarah Smith from Simpson, representing the applicant, and with me in the room I have Sean Sadler, Annette Sadler and Ian Simpson. Sean and Annette own the company, which is the applicant, and Ian is the proposed DPS.
Right, thank you. Heather G.
Morning, I'm Heather Gebby, Senior Licensing Officer, and I'll be presenting the report this morning.
Heather B.
Morning, I'm Heather Bowers and I'll be taking a note of the meeting.
Melanie.
Melanie Bullman, Solicitor, Northumberland County Council, advising the committee on any legal issues.
And last but not least, Paul.
Paul Sedgwick, I live at the property directly behind St Mary's Inn.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, Heather G, would you like to present the application, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Licensing Subcommittee hearing today is with regards to an application for a premises licence for St Mary's Inn, St Mary's Park, Morpeth. The applicant has applied the supply of alcohol on and off the premises and regulated entertainment and late night refreshment from indoors. There's been one objection received on the grounds of public nuisance, and therefore a determination is required by members today. In determining the application and having considered the report, all relevant representations and verbal submissions from persons entitled to speak, the subcommittee is required to make its determination in respect of the application at the conclusion of the hearing. In this case, the subcommittee may grant the licence subject to conditions consistent with the operating schedule accompanying the application, exclude any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, or reject the application if it is not possible to promote one or more of the licensing objectives. Members are reminded that they may only attach additional conditions in respect of those matters that are subject to the application and in respect of which a relevant representation has been made, and that they are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The application itself was received on the 23rd of February this year from Simpson Solicitors on behalf of Chandeliers by Annette Limited with regards to an application for a premises licence for St Mary's Inn, St Mary's Park, Morpeth. You'll note that within the email circulated to members yesterday at the request of Simpson Solicitors, a copy of the premises licence, which is NPR 1827, which relates to the previous licence attached to the premises, which was surrendered on the 17th of November last year. You'll also note it was also requested within the email that an updated plan of the interior of the building be circulated, as there's been some internal changes planned at the site following a recent site meeting. The new application received in February relates to the supply of alcohol on and off the premises, Sunday to Thursday 9 AM till 11 PM and Friday and Saturday 9 AM till midnight. Indoors only for regulated entertainment Sunday to Thursday. Sorry about that, that was the fire alarm going off.
I hope she's not on fire. Everything okay, Heather?
Apologies, I'm not quite sure if it's a false alarm or not. Would you like me to continue?
It's up to you, it's your fire.
I think, Chair, I don't know if you want to just suspend for a minute or so just to see if that's going to be resolved. I don't, Heather, are you at County Hall?
At the moment I'm at Stakeford Depot. I think it seems like it's stopped for the moment. Apologies for that. I'll continue. Sorry, for indoors only for regulated entertainment Sunday to Thursday 8 AM till 11 PM and Friday and Saturday 8 AM till midnight, and late night refreshment Sunday to Thursday 11 PM to 11:30 PM, Friday and Saturday 11 PM till 12:30 AM. A copy of the application is attached at Appendix A. All licensable activities have been applied for with seasonal variations and non-standard timings, which can be found at Part J of the application. There has been one objection from an interested party on the grounds of public nuisance, which can be found at Appendix B. As a reminder, the objective with regard to the prevention of public nuisance can relate to issues such as hours of operation, noise emanating from the premises, vibrations, lighting and litter. 2 extra conditions have been added to the licence, have been agreed by the applicant and the Environmental Health Department, which can be found at Appendix C. Following the decision of the Licensing Subcommittee today, if the applicant or any interested party who may have made a representation is aggrieved by that decision, they may appeal to the Magistrates Court within the period of 21 days, beginning on the day they receive the formal written notification of the determination. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the presentation of the report.
I was muted there, my apologies.
Chair,
Members, have you any
sorry.
questions for Heather?
Chair, sorry, Sarah Smith has got a hand up.
Who has? Oh, sorry, Sarah, yes.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a question for Heather. She's mentioned the documents that we circulated, which was the previous premises licence and the revised layout plan. We also circulated a WhatsApp exchange with the St Mary's Park residents and the email exchange with Mr Sedgwick. I just wondered if you'd also had those, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My apologies. I turned that down, at least I thought I had, which I should have mentioned before. Could everyone turn their mobile phones off or silent? Right, as I said before, members, have you any questions for Heather G? No, none?
Chair, you've muted.
So sensitive, this keyboard. Are there any questions from the legal officer? Melanie?
No, thank you. No, thank you, Chair.
And any other interested parties? Paul, any questions? 2, Heather, that is.
No, I have no problems.
Thank you. And Sarah, have you any more? You've still got a hand up?
No, I'm fine. I'll take my hand down. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Would you like to present the application? Well, not present the application, but Sarah, would you like to start off and present your side of things?
Thank you, Chair, I will. So obviously I've introduced you to Sean and Annette. Sean and Annette have a number of business interests in the local area. Their background is in engineering and the utility sector, owning and running UTS Engineering in Jarrow for the last 27 years. As that company's grown, they've taken the opportunity to acquire several distressed businesses in other sectors, investing in them, turning them around and making them successful. To date, those have included double glazing windows and excavator buckets, and this is obviously their latest venture. Sean and Annette obviously operate a family business, but they live locally to St Mary's Inn and have been regular customers over the years and have always had an interest in how the venue's been operated. The premises itself is located within the grounds of the old St Mary's Hospital, which was a mental health facility, and the opening of the inn was part of a larger development of the area by Bellway Homes, who created a residential development of around 300 homes, both houses and apartments, around this pub. Whilst a lot of the original hospital buildings were pulled down for that housing development, St Mary's Inn itself is located in the old administration building of the hospital. So initially, the inn opened in 2014. It's made up of a restaurant, bar, function spaces on the ground floor with 11 bedrooms on the upper floor. There was a lot of positivity around the opening of the inn initially. It had connections with Terry Leybourne and Jesmond Dean House, and it was marketed very much as a high-end gastropub with accommodation. But I think it's fair to say that it struggled to find its footing in the market. The food was perhaps a little bit too high-end and lacked in consistency. The venue actually closed for a spell in 2017. The reason given for that there wasn't enough footfall as the housing estate was developing more slowly than expected, but it did reopen in 2018. Unfortunately, when lockdown came, however, in early 2020, the the premises closed, staff were made redundant, and the operating company was placed into administration. So it has been closed since March 2020. The premises licence originally in place was surrendered by that company in 2020, October 2020, so effectively no licence there at the minute, hence the fact that we're applying for a new one. As local residents with strong connections to the area, Sean and Annette saw this as an ideal opportunity to take over the venue and develop it, as they had done before with ailing businesses, and effectively turn it around into what they would like to see, which is a proper local venue for the local people. Sean is a trustee of the St Mary's Village Hall charity, which is based directly opposite the pub. He knows many of the residents on the estate and has always taken a keen interest in being part of and enhancing the community of St Mary's. So over the years, he sponsored the local quiz team, the Morpeth triathlon team, and other local activities. It's clear to him that there is a strong desire among local residents to have this facility, but that to be successful, it has to offer the residents first and foremost what they want from a local pub. So the intention going forward is to concentrate on a food offering which is more accessible, everyday food, children's and pensioners' portions, healthy options, a lighter bite menu. The idea is that instead of coming here for a treat, people will feel that they can pop in almost every day to have a daily meal. They want to create a local pub atmosphere which feels more like a community hub, the type of place where people are equally comfortable popping in a group or a couple or on their own, and whilst they're wanting still to attract customers from further afield, and they will offer a la carte menus and afternoon teas and special events, their main market is very much the 300 households that are on their doorstep. So turning to the application, as you were aware, because there's no licence currently there, it's for a new premises licence, and we are seeking really effectively to replace what was previously in place before the former owner surrendered the licence. So the activities and hours we seek are very similar to what was there before. In terms of alcohol sales, the finish times remain at 11 PM weekdays, 12 midnight Fridays and Saturdays. We've streamlined the hours during which activities can take place to replicate those hours. We have added some flexibility for additional hours on bank holidays, New Year's Eve, and for people staying at the inn, but we would submit there's nothing radical, there's no radical changes proposed. And I have put in the bundle the original premises licence, so you can sort of compare and contrast to see that that is the case. As you've heard, there are some small internal changes proposed to the layout. There are two plans now in your bundle. The original plan, which shows the larger footprint with the red line, and the plan of the internal changes. The current layout, if you've ever been to St Mary's, is a little bit claustrophobic. It was set out almost like a stable with wooden partitions. They are to be removed and some walls are to be knocked through, and that will provide a much more open plan, light-filled offering, and there'll be a new, fresher, more open entranceway as well. Nothing particularly radical in the changes, but just basically, as I say, taking out partitions, which made it feel a little bit enclosed and restricted the atmosphere, I think it'd be fair to say. Externally, we've included within the red line of the licence the car park and the grassed area to the front of the building. Under the previous licence, customers obviously could consume alcohol outside, but we put those areas within the red line to allow us, if we require, to provide service of alcohol out there. So we could put, for example, a small temporary bar or something of that nature out there. Something we probably wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for COVID, but under the COVID regulations and restrictions, which I think everyone expects may go on for another year or so, we saw the opportunity to put that in this application and give us that flexibility going forward. It's also sensible to build that in because one of the things that the couple are looking to provide is occasional events. So we may have something like a food market, a drink market, a family fun day, and that allows us that flexibility by bringing that area within the red line. In terms of the accommodation, that's located on the first floor, and that will really remain the same. The bedrooms will be undergoing a refurbishment. As I said, there are 11 bedrooms in place. Historically, they attracted business travellers during the week, with leisure travellers on weekends, walkers, sightseeing, people visiting family in the area, and we would expect that to remain very much the same. Ian Simpson, who is with us today, is to be the DPS. He has a strong background in the hospitality industry. He's worked in hospitality since he was a teenager and has held management positions in a number of well-respected venues in Newcastle before he became the assistant manager at St Mary's when it reopened in 2018. When he was made redundant from St Mary's, Sean gave him a job within one of his other companies, but Ian's keen to get back to what he loves and take up the position of general manager going forward. So we have the benefit of Ian's knowledge with St Mary's. He has first-hand experience of having worked there. He knows what worked and what didn't work. He also knows a lot of the local people, and he has spent the last few months carrying out some market research to ascertain what the residents want to see from the local venue. And as I've referred to, we did circulate a WhatsApp extract that had Ian basically asking for feedback from residents, telling them what's planned, putting forward a mood board and asking people what their thoughts were and if there was anything particular they'd like to see. And it's been a very positive feedback. We've had over 100 responses, all of them positive, no negative comments at all. And it's quite clear from that that people want the pub to reopen. They have lots of ideas that have been put forward, and many of those will be taken forward, such as the continuation of the quiz night, food events, food for children, more accessible meals, etc. In terms of the promotion of the licensing objectives, obviously we have the history of the venue having previously been licensed. We've taken the operating schedule and updated it a little bit, but not too radically. Again, the operating schedule is in your bundle, and that will create the conditions on the licence. Following consultation with the environmental health officer, that's also been enhanced, and you again have in your bundle the additional 2 conditions that have been agreed. They're there for you to read. I won't go through them, but they are standard, but very much focused on making sure that the public nuisance is not created. The overall investment in the building is obviously high. The Sadlers have taken on the purchase at a cost of £1.3 million. They are proposing an investment in refurbishment of £250,000, and from opening they will be able to create 20 jobs, full and part-time, which we hope will increase as the COVID restrictions ease, and we'll be able to have more people at the venue. In terms of objections, you'll see that there's been 1 objection to the application, Mr Sedgwick. I'll obviously let him deal with his objection. His main concerns seem to be doors and windows to the rear of the building have been left open historically, smokers outside on the rear terrace, people leaving loudly, taxis at the rear, and a perception that we're applying for a later licence than was there previously, which we are not. You will see that we have had an email exchange, which is self-explanatory. Ian obviously was a manager at the premises, an assistant manager. He was aware that there had been a complaint about the rear doors being left open. I think the only thing I'd like to highlight is the doors at the rear of the premises are only staff or fire exit doors. So it would have potentially have been perhaps a chef leaving a kitchen door open if things got a little bit hot. Windows at the back, the only windows are the first floor windows which attach to the bedrooms of the venue. There's no access by residents out of the rear of the building. They can't go beyond the wall. So if they were getting a taxi, it has to come to the front of the building. Obviously, now that we're aware that Mr Sedgwick has concerns about those matters, it will be something that will be taken on board and reiterated to staff. But all of the conditions that we have put in, supported by the environmental health officer, we would submit, address any concerns that Mr Sedgwick's had historically with the former operator. And that's the application, Chair, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, questions from the committee. I've got 1 or 2 personally. Small matters actually, but just for clarification, the postcode on the application, the postcode is NE611BL. And on the, one moment, I'll find it. The operating schedule, it's NE616BL. Which is which?
I can do a quick Google search, Chair. It might just be in the typo.
What's that? 6BL.
6BL, I'm being told. Yes, it is. NE61 6BL. Apologies for that.
So the application, the postcode application should be changed from 1BL to 6BL.
6BL, Chair, that's correct.
I'm actually wondering if St Mary's Lane is 1BL, sorry, 6BL, and the actual address, St Mary's Inn, has its own postcode of 1BL. Just wondering what, if it's a typo error or what.
I think it's probably me being put a typo error in, Chair, because it's definitely coming up as 6BL. The only way I would have changed it is when I did a VOA search. I'll have a quick look at that.
Right.
Sometimes the valuation office gives a slightly different one, but it's probably just a typo on my part.
Okay. At least we know that and we can rectify that if the licence is granted.
Thank you. Eagle eyes, Chair.
I have Councillor Sesford. Trevor, you've got a hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I just want a bit of clarification. Please, you mentioned that there may be a temporary bar on occasions, or that it would give you a flexibility to consider having a temporary bar out in the car park area. How would that operate? What would the hours of that be? Because obviously you have your extra agreed conditions which see external consumption of alcohol in certain areas would either be not after 2200 hours or not after 2300 hours. Would this be just be shut up shop, and then so if you need people to stop drinking alcohol outside, one assumes that the temporary bar would have to close by 9:30 or 10:30, depending on the boats.
That's absolutely correct, Councillor. Yeah, obviously we have restrictions on. We were conscious of it being a housing estate, and whilst the local residents are keen for the venue to be open, they obviously don't want to be bothered by it. So yes, the restriction would be from about 9:30 onwards. In the external area, the bar will close, last orders, and then everyone's got to stop consuming out their cleared area by 10. The 11 o'clock.
Can I just clarify this? I was just going to say, can I just clarify this with Heather, whether this has to be written into the application, or whether it's just accepted because of the limitations of consumption outside? Can I get you?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please, Councillor?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does these the restrictions, any temporary bars or anything, have to be written into the application, or is it just assumed because there's already agreement for no consumption outside that the bar will close beforehand, or does it have to go into the application?
No, it doesn't have to go into the application. That would be with regards to the extra conditions that's been agreed with environmental health, that there will be no consumption after 2300 hours, and that area would be part of the licence.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, I've got another question for you in part K of the application. Right. Yep. And the question is non-anticipated. It's either none or there is going to be some. So should anticipated be taken off?
It can be, Chair. It's just if we ever had an event where, well, the adult entertainment matter is always a little bit of a question mark. For example, if we had a gaming machine in there, that would be adult entertainment. So if we had a fruit machine in, I don't think we're anticipating putting any in, but we could be in the future. But if it's an issue, I'm happy just to say no, because there's none planned at the moment. Well,
it would be a case of just amending the application as and when it was required, wouldn't it?
Well, there's no facility for doing that in respect of adult entertainment. It's a bit of an anomaly in the Act, Chair. But to make it simpler, I'm more than happy just to say no.
So we delete the anticipated and leave it as no.
Thank you.
Right. And L, the next one down, you have NA. Normally that would be not applicable, but after saying non-anticipated, it could be either. It's
not applicable because obviously we've gone for 24 hours in terms of open because it's a hotel.
Great, just confirmation on that one.
Thank you.
And the other one is the schedule, operating schedule, which seems to be fairly comprehensive, but there is no mention at all about prevention of public, not prevention of public nuisance, my apologies, the protection of children from harm. There's not a word in about children from harm. Challenge 25 sort of thing, but nothing at all protecting children from harm.
Well, we've got, that would be our standard protection of children from harm. Condition 13, that, you know, we want to make sure that we've got challenge 25 policy in place. That is just what we would standardly put in. Have you got any conditions that you had in mind? Because this is very much what we would normally put in.
It's just, you know, it's a fairly bog standard schedule, basically. It's just to try and enhance the fact that, well, there's nothing in regarding that. Age. You know, like how
I appreciate that. It's not something that anybody's raised. We've got number 11 in. All members of staff authorised to sell alcohol at premises shall undergo adequate training in the Licensing Act 2003, which would also obviously include, you know, children, protection of harm, etc. It's not something environmental health or public safety have raised as responsible bodies.
There's nothing in the likes of children in the bar area being refused at a certain time.
No, Chair. I mean, that's the sort of condition that comes over from the 1964 Act when we used to have children's certificates. So those are the sort of conditions that are coming off licences. We would never put one of those in as a standard. We don't. We obviously a legal advisor can give you some indication on that, but it isn't something that we would ever put into an application nowadays unless we were specifically asked because of the concern raised by the police or possibly environmental health. But it's not a standard condition nowadays.
Right, and just for the record, you mentioned in your presentation that the internal alterations we had nothing in our pack showing the internal alterations. That's just for the record.
Sorry, Chair, that was a plan that was circulated recently. So you should have one plan which just shows the building. I think Heather did refer to it in her introduction that plan had been circulated subsequently.
Right, my apologies, I haven't found that one, but it's more or less irrelevant to a certain extent anyway. Any more questions from members? Bill? Bill's frozen. Hello, Bill. Bill, can you hear? Sorry, we've got technical issues. Bill.
I think, Chair, if we could perhaps.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Melanie.
I think
after all that, I've got no questions.
All right, I've heard him that time. You're still frozen, but stay warm. Any questions from the officers to Sarah?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Melanie?
Nothing from me, Chair. Chair, just to clarify, the internal plan which Sarah was referring to, that was sent around on the email yesterday with the other documents, so it should be with that. There was 4 attachments, so it's one of those attachments.
Right,
I think we did have right. I can refer you to it later.
Yeah, right. If there's no more questions from us, then we'll hand over to Paul. Have you any questions of Sarah, from Sarah or the applicants?
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, I haven't prepared a formal statement or anything else. I just wanted to make it very clear. I don't object to a license as a whole for the pub. I think it's a good thing to have the pub on the estate and everything else. What I do object to is a late license, and obviously with the proposal of serving alcohol and having functions and things like that, live music, etc., outside, obviously with the current environment, obviously that is going to cause an even bigger issue than it was before. The street plan that was submitted with the application doesn't actually reflect what has been built. When you have a look at the street plan that was submitted with the application compared to what's actually been built, my residence is actually closer than the original, which is shown on the plan which has been submitted. One of my bedroom windows is slightly over 4 meters away from the boundary of the premises, which obviously has caused problems in the past. We have had quite a few issues in the past with regard to noise from the kitchen, noise from the patio doors to the beer garden, which again is directly across from one of the bedrooms in the house. The bigger issue really is the noise. I don't object to the pub. I don't object to what they're trying to achieve or anything else. But I do object to the noise, and really it's about some assurances, or if something can be written into the license to ensure that these issues that have had in the past aren't going to crop up again, i.e. using the beer garden area for a smoking area when there's a private function at the rear of the pub, where people are stood outside at 11:30 at night, screaming, shouting and everything else while I'm trying to sleep. Where we've had drunken arguments out the back of the pub as people have been leaving, drunken arguments in some of the bedrooms to the rear of the pub, these sorts of issues. Right,
well, that was actually questions to Sarah you had none, and it was your turn to make a representation. Which, sorry. No, it's okay. You've made the representation. You were in full swing, so I didn't want to stop you. Could I ask you a question as to which is your residence on the plan?
We're directly behind the beer garden.
Well, there are 4 residents on our plan. Well, 4 buildings on our plan that we're looking at now. There's a one which says M1, another one M3, then M3/M4.
This is what I'm saying, Chair. The street plan which has been submitted with the application doesn't reflect what has actually been built.
Right.
So my property isn't actually on that plan.
Oh. Well, I've looked on Google Earth and couldn't really work out where your property was, unfortunately.
Because the plan doesn't reflect what's been built or what's on Google Earth. I've actually got some pictures. If you, I don't know if you can see them. If I pull them up on PowerPoint, if you bear with me, can you see what's on my screen?
No.
Right. Bear with me.
Can I just check,
Only-
Sarah, are you okay with this?
Sorry, Melanie, I haven't got an issue because we did do a site visit and I think it's roughly the same. So I think it might just help if perhaps if Paul could just describe in conjunction with what's on the plan that the committee have got, where his house is amongst that. I know it's not exact and it may be a little bit closer from what he says, just a rough idea of where he is.
Right, so my property is approximately to as you're looking at the plan, where M3 is, my property is to the left part of that and to the right side of the M1 property.
Right, I can see roughly where you are then, yeah.
As I say, the plans, it's not, the plans aren't representative of what's actually been built, but it also doesn't show just how wide that road is. It's not a very wide road at all, and like I say, the rear of the premises is actually slightly over 4 meters from my property, which obviously the rear of the pub is used for anything, including when the chefs turn up at 6 o'clock in the morning to start cooking breakfast, leave the back door open and start clattering things around, or are there cleaning at 12, half 12 at night with a scrub machine and the radio blasting with the back door open. Now, obviously, we had the discussions with the previous owner, and obviously appreciate the fact that the general manager is going to be the same, so we probably will be aware of some of the issues that we have had in the past.
Right, well, I would presume with the environmental health condition, that should be covered, hopefully should be covered by that, and if there were to be any problems, then if it was reported, then you know, something could be done about it, as in the license could be in jeopardy. But that's, you know, that we've got all this to discuss anyway. Members, have you any questions for Paul? Trevor? Trevor?
Sorry, yes, I was just trying to find my hand there. Yeah, some of the things that you've mentioned in this, Paul, have already been covered, or at least talked about, of Sarah. What I would, if I was to say to you, because obviously you're in agreement with the idea and the concept of the pub, you made that quite clear. But if I was to ask you, Paul, what 2 or 3 things that the pub could actually do that would alleviate some of your major issues, actually specific actual things that you think that the pub could do that would help alleviate some of the concerns that you have, real life things?
All I would ask for is, obviously, the previous license holder, yes, they had the same timings on their license, which has been applied for now. However, it was those times were never stretched to 11 o'clock and midnight, you know, on or very rarely. What I don't understand why, if the main subject of the patrons for the premises is going to be the residents on the estate, why there needs to be a late license. So I don't understand why there needs to be a late license, but also if anything needs to be done outside, it needs to be done at the front of the building, so the building creates that natural barrier. Regardless, that's the main things. Yeah, I mean, I've got, obviously, you know, yes, there's double glazing and things like that which can knock out the sound and stuff and things, but at the end of the day, you know, I shouldn't be woken up at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning by either staff leaving or staff cleaning or people having drunken rants out the back of the premises or to the side of the premises. And that's I would like something put in place.
Seems to be that you have an issue over the doors being open at the rear of the building. So I mean, obviously kitchens are very hot places to work in, so they have the door open, but having the radio on at 6 o'clock in the morning or 12:30 the following morning at night time after midnight does seem slightly unfair, shall we say, to say the least. So if some form of approach to help with that, as in noise reduction, clearly by having the doors shut, I mean, would that be something that would help alleviate some of the issues?
It's about ensuring things are done, because the thing is, within the license, there's already things within the application for the license that says that doors are going to be shut. There's going to be signs up asking, you know, polite notices, respect our neighbours, etc., etc. However, what is the new owner going to do to ensure that these things aren't going to happen?
Yeah. Well, these are one of the things
that's the assurances that I need, really.
These are some of the things we need to take into consideration. For so what I need is just everything that, you know, would assist you. That maybe the applicant might be flexible, shall we say, on, and that we could maybe even think about considering a condition on. But thanks very much for that, Paul.
I see you've got your hand up, Sarah, but if you allow us to wait till your turn, and then you can ask Paul or respond to Paul after that. Right. Bill's been frozen for ages. I'm a little concerned. Are you still there, Bill? Bill? I'm going to try and give him a ring to see if he's...
Yes.
Sorry, could you repeat that? You broke up there.
I'm still here, Chair. I've heard it all.
You heard it all?
I'm still here. I've heard it all, yeah.
Right. Officers, any questions to Paul?
No questions, Chair. As long as Councillor Crosby can hear everything, he doesn't necessarily need to see. So it's fine as long as he can hear everything. He's still partaking in the hearing.
Right. He says he's heard everything he said. I wonder if he turned his camera off. It may help the signal.
I'll try that. Maybe.
Well, you're still there at the moment. You haven't turned it off. Oh, you've gone. Right. Can you still hear us?
I think, Chair, possibly. Is he still here?
Still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you want to speak, put your hand up. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
will do,
Sarah.
Chair. Thanks very much.
Right, Sarah. Over to you now. Any questions to Paul? I'm sorry about all this connection problem.
No problem, Chair. Not so much perhaps questions, but obviously perhaps make the point to Paul. I am aware, Paul, that you did raise these issues with the previous owner. Are you saying that after you raised them, they weren't addressed?
They were addressed for a short period, but then it all started again. Obviously, we logged a couple of complaints with environmental health as well. Obviously, we tried to deal with it just by speaking to the duty manager, phoning up of an evening to the pub to speak to whoever was behind the bar or the duty manager, on 2 occasions to be met with a torrent of abuse. So hence the reason I actually went to the owner direct, and after that it did get dealt with, but then slowly it creeped back in. But then obviously the we came into the winter season, and then obviously COVID kicked in, and obviously the pub's been shut since. So even when it was addressed with the owner and the duty managers, it was still an issue before.
So obviously we're just sorry, Joe.
Could I intervene at this point for a second? Just going to say, Bill, would you turn your microphone off, what you just have? It seems as if the relationship in the past hasn't been that good, and the owners at present want to do the best. So maybe it's a case of, you know, give and take on both sides, actually. And if there are any problems, any issues, get in touch with environmental health, get in touch with the licensing. I would imagine, and what they won't want to do is put their license in jeopardy, put it that way, I would imagine.
No, I don't. It's like I said at the beginning. I don't object to a license. What I object to is having a late license. I don't feel the need where, even on a Friday and a Saturday night, I don't feel the need within a residential area to have a license till 12 o'clock at night. That, because all it's going to do is cause even more nuisance problems. That's what I object to. I don't object to a license. Yes, I appreciate the fact of what the new owners are trying to do. What I object to is a late license. I don't see the need in having a license till 12 o'clock in a residential area when people live so close to the pub, and there have been these issues in the past. And obviously with the current climate, all I'm asking for is that extra care be taken with where you're going to put this outdoor entertainment, that it should be on the other side of the pub, in the north side of the pub, in the car park, directly out the front of the building, so as the building is used as a natural sound barrier. That's all I'm asking for. I don't object to them having a license. I just don't see the need to have a license till 12 o'clock at night, where people are then going to be leaving the bar at 12:30 at night, when I've got work at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm trying to get to sleep at 10 o'clock. That's what I object to.
Right, I understand. Sarah, sorry I cut you off before. Have you anything else?
I think it's perhaps not so much questions, but it probably is a sensible time to put this in, Chair. I mean, obviously in terms of hours, we have to bear in mind that Mr Sedgwick has objected, but we have 300 households there, some of which are closer than Mr Sedgwick, who haven't objected. Obviously the environmental health officers are comfortable with what we're applying for, so there won't be any give on hours from our side, I'll be honest. In terms of the doors at the back, we're obviously very aware of the fact that doors shouldn't be left open. We're happy to put on some sensors on those doors, which means that if they were opened, that would ping up with the management and they would know that a chef has opened those doors. So we're happy to censor those. In terms of that rear courtyard terrace that Mr Sedgwick's mentioned, we'd be more than happy to say that no customers will be allowed in that external terraced area to the south side of the building after 2200 hours, which would give them the comfort that people aren't going to be wandering out there smoking. If they want to smoke, they'll have to go to the north side. And it is our intention to do some works on that area, perhaps put some trellising up, which will give a natural barrier as well. So hopefully that will give some comfort. Another just anecdotal fact is that Mr and Mrs Sadler's daughters just bought a house very near to Paul that's being built at the side of the pub, which would be impacted more by this venue, I think, than Paul would be, because of the location. And again, you know, they're not intending to do anything that's going to cause problems to any of the residents, their daughter included. And as we've said in open correspondence to Paul, we're more than happy for him to have the manager's number. If there's a problem, of course, give us a call and we'll sort it out there and then. We do want it to be successful and for the residents to be happy with it. I think that's probably all I can say. I hope that gives them some comfort with regard to the conditions we're prepared to offer.
Paul, you wish to speak? Yeah, sorry, put your hand up. Yeah,
it's just obviously we're saying that that there's other residents closer to the building than myself. There's only a couple of buildings that are as close as mine. However, obviously, because of the courtyard at the rear and because of the vicinity of the upstairs bedroom windows and where the rear kitchen door is, where the walkway is, it's my property which bears the brunt of everything. This is why. It's not, I appreciate the fact that there's a mirror image of where my house is on the other side of the pub. However, that side of the pub is where the beer delivery comes in. It's not where a kitchen is. It's not where a outdoor garden is. And this is the reason why I'm objecting.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from Sarah's team, the applicant, actual applicants and the owners to Paul?
No, Chair. I mean, obviously we have been down to the site. I hear what Paul's saying, but there are other residents quite close. That's the only point I would make. Thank you.
Right, but are there any questions from the other party, interested parties on the other side of the table from yourselves?
No, Chair.
No? Okay, we're up to the summing up part now. I know it seems a bit awkward, Paul, but if you would wish to, sorry, Melanie's got a hand up.
Chair, can I just clarify, just before the summing up starts, there seemed to be almost an offer of potential conditions by Sarah if the committee were minded to grant the licence and felt that these conditions were necessary. I think the first one you mentioned was about sensors on the back doors of the building. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And in terms of the no customers being allowed, I've got in to the south side of the building.
And there was no customers to be allowed in the external terraced area to the south side of the building after 2200 hours.
Right, no customers allowed to the external terraced area to the south side of the building.
After 2200 hours.
You just have to bear with me while I scribble. Okay, after 2200 hours, right, that's great, thank you.
Okay, happy with that, Melanie?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thanks. Well, back to summing up. Paul, would you like to sum up in a couple of minutes? I think I know what you're going to say, but you've got the right to sum up.
So it's literally like I've just said. One, obviously the plan doesn't reflect what's actually been built, so it doesn't actually show how close residents are to the premises. Both of my bedrooms overlook the rear of the pub, so yeah, and obviously it's the noise issue. I don't know why we need to have a license so late. That's my objection, really and truthfully.
Thank you very much. Sarah, it's your turn to sum up, bearing in mind, with all due respect, solicitors love to speak. You made a great presentation before. This is only summing up. So would you like to sum up, please?
I hardly dare, Chair. Obviously, our application seeks to resurrect the licence that was previously in place at the venue with some minor modifications. The premises are situated in a residential area, but the creation of it was at the heart of the development, and the residents on the whole clearly support the venue and are looking forward to it reopening under new management. We do need to put some perspective. I appreciate that Mr. Sedgwick's house is close to the rear of the venue, but I would submit that he is not the only resident who is so close. In terms of noise, it is all controllable. We're fully aware of the points that Mr. Sedgwick has raised in terms of opening of doors, which is easily controllable. We've offered a condition. People in the outside terrace, which looks onto his house, which again, we've offered a condition which would control that. I know he mentioned taxis before, but all the taxis would come to the front because there's no access to the road from the rear. That just really leaves us with the later hours. The hours that we seek are exactly what was on the previous licence. You know, it's only Fridays and Saturdays, it's weekend evenings where we're looking for later hours. If there is not the demand for it, then we won't use it, as the previous operator didn't regularly use it. But it does give us flexibility. Back in the old days of the 1964 Licensing Act, midnight was a standard hour for restaurants. People do like to go out a little bit later, particularly on weekends, and that's all we're seeking. Bearing in mind that the other 299 households on the estate are welcoming of it, we would submit that with the conditions we've offered and the conditions agreed with the Environmental Health Officer and our operating schedule, we are adequately promoting the licensing objectives. If for any reason there are problems in the future, there are a lot of controls to come back and ask us to revise what we've put forward by way of either discussions with environmental health, review of the licence, etc. So on that basis, I would ask you to grant the licence as agreed with the additional conditions of the Environmental Health Officer and the 2 conditions we've suggested during this presentation.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Before we retire, I'm just going to go to Bill Cosby. Bill, did you hear all that? Or have you?
Yes, I heard everything, Chair. Thank you very much.
Oh, you sound a lot better without your picture.
Okay,
then. Thank you all for attending. We've heard both sides. We'll now retire with the legal officer in a closed session and come to a decision. And as was said at the start of the meeting, you will be notified ASAP by telephone or by email of the outcome. And you, regardless, you have either party has 21 days to appeal if required. Okay, thank you all for attending. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Bye.